Hi, everybody. I actually wasn't going to do a message today. This one's going to be probably very brief, but I received a couple of emails from people that expressed to me that they're reaching a kind of a breaking point with isolation and being away from their families. And the word breaking point, the idea of it, I imagine that that's going to be hitting a lot of people. And so I thought I would just, discuss that, present the idea that, breaking point's an option, but so is breaking through. I mean, we have to prepare ourselves for a long haul. We don't know when we're going to get through this, how we're going to get through it, what's going to be expected of us. This is not a circumstance there's no place to go. There's no country we can run to. There's no way we can hit the off button, get off the off ramp. I mean, we really are in something together. And to that extent, we have to draw an odd level of comfort from that we really are in something together. I mean, we've been in the experience of life together, but we haven't been in the experience of crisis together. And I think it's extraordinary the way it is heightening our senses about, about the world around us. I mean, it's making me, I beg your pardon, it's making me miss the smallest, most precious things that I haven't thought about, that I should have given more thought to, and now I will always give more thought to. And that's the precious gift of meeting my friends for dinner or spending time with, I haven't seen my brother, I haven't seen my nephew. I don't know when I'll be in the same room with them again, or my other nieces and nephews. And I miss them terribly, and FaceTime is wonderful, but it's not the same thing. I don't know when we'll be sitting at the same table again for dinner. It's wonderful that we can do these little video things and call each other at dinner time and see what we're eating and talk to each other, but it's not the same thing. Nothing is the same thing. And yet we find ways to compensate for that kind of intimacy. We have video intimacy, but it's not the same thing. And then there's the humorous part of this. We can always find humor. We must rely on humor more than perhaps we ever had before. I went to Russia in the days of the Soviet Union. You have to excuse me. I shouldn't eat dairy, and I had cheese, and there you go. Anyway, you're really going to get to know me, my bad haircuts, what I shouldn't eat. And I stayed at this hotel called the Hotel Ukraine, and it's this enormous place. And in the days of the Soviet Union, which are just a masterful adventure of times, you get off the elevator, and there were on these floors that had endless numbers of rooms. I mean, this hotel has thousands of rooms, and because Russians build big, and so there was always a woman sitting at this desk. She was a spy, and she had a samovar behind her, and so when you got off the elevator, you could get a cup of tea, but you also got your toilet paper from her. And she would dole out these, and believe me, it wasn't Charmin. It was kind of like the paper, well, what would I compare it to? The National Enquirer. It would be like using the National Enquirer. And so it would be like sheets of that. And she would just very diligently take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sheets of that. And I thought to myself, wow, that would never happen in the United States. And lo and behold, where are we today? Right? And what's the treasure in the grocery store? Toilet paper, Bounty, Scott towels, right? And Never say never. What's the great lesson? Never say never. You cannot imagine that you would be in this, oh my God, there's toilet paper down that line, and these people go racing down. And what does my niece call me? She said, Auntie, do you have any extra toilet paper? And I thought, ooh, if I didn't love you, I would say, well, I'm not sure, but all right, and I hang a bag of toilet paper, not steak, not diamonds, toilet paper. You gotta, if you don't find humor in this, this is the place what we're spinning into. Think about something. As I was listening to this discussion of this virus, I've had people write to me about what's the meaning of it? Where does it come from? Because I've spoken about the polio virus and how, right after the 1929 fall in the market, our collective vocabulary began to shift, and we referred to our economy as crippled, that we were crippled economically. And sure enough, in the 30s, the polio virus erupted. And I don't think we've begun to understand the power of our collective consciousness. We just don't get it. We don't get that we breathe together, that we co-create together, that we are the engines of this. And the great paradox and the great irony is that we are in this journey of consciousness, of becoming conscious of this power of co-creation. But we have not woven ourselves together as a co-creative force. We haven't really gotten the power of how we could redirect the future, the present, how we could tackle a breakthrough in attitude. I think one of the most remarkable things, if we studied that, would be the solidarity movement in Poland that then triggered the fall of the Eastern Bloc and ultimately the Berlin Wall, and how that collective thought of becoming solid, the solidarity movement, organized more than people. It organized around a vision. And that's one example of what it is to combine the power of the soul with the power of an idea, to ensoul the idea. That's what we have to do now. We have to ensoul the idea that we can heal this virus. A virus that I think I'm having thoughts about, but as I say, the jury's out. But I do want you to think about that. We have for years, several years now, been fed a lot of fear. There's people out there that are trying to come in. The atmosphere is full of contaminants. This is dirty. We've been fed so much fear. We've been fed the fear of touching each other. We've been fed the fear of invasion by foreign. We've just been fed fear. And that's a pandemic. That's a fear psychic pandemic. The fear of what's out there, the fear that there'll not be enough, the fear that the fear of climate change, which is real. It's real. The fear that we won't survive. So this fear of the inability to survive has been a part of our psychic field for quite some time now. So is it really that extraordinary that that somehow a virus that embodies that fear has sprung up. And it's someone could easily say, don't be ridiculous. It's come out of bats and bad animals or rare animals out of China. There's always a physical channel for a psychic event. There always is. There always is. So no, it doesn't surprise me at all. But I just want you to think about that, which means there isn't anything that we cannot respond to at a higher level. There is a reason that for the last 50, 60 years, we've been inundated with one teaching after another about the option to seek higher levels of consciousness. And perhaps now it's not an option, but a necessity to not break down, but break through. To break through what would previously break us down. We can't break down. It's not an option. It's not an option. So when you come to that place in yourself, and you might say, I just can't take it. I can't take one more day of confinement. You tell yourself, yes, you can. It sure can. Absolutely. This does not have the authority to break me down. I need something bigger to break me down. This can't do it. This can't do it. Because if that can do it, and should the virus come to you, you have to be stronger than that to fight for your life. It can't be a small space that gets to you. It can't be the behavior of another person. You got to stretch yourself bigger than you've ever had to before. And you have to become, in some ways, more appreciative of every little thing that you weren't before. You read books on the shelf that you collected and thought, I don't even know why I have this book, but you take a look at it. Slow down and have wonderful conversations with people about their lives. I spend time with my mother now. She is 92. This is no doubt the last decade of her life. And I'm with her every evening now. And it's very precious to me. It's very, very precious. And it's giving me time to ask her to recall things that I want to remember for the rest of my life. And I like slowing this down and having time to make calls to people that, because I've lived on the road for 35 years, I haven't had a chance to do. There's something okay about slowing down and trying to make the best of a situation that none of us would choose to be in, but we are here. And so when we feel as though we can't make it through, we can, and we will. We will. My grandmother used to say, nothing lasts forever. Nothing lasts forever. And as we look through history, nothing has lasted forever. Even Buddha said nothing lasts forever. We don't know how long this journey is going to be. But every part of us that says along the way, help everyone on this journey, mercy on everyone, bless everyone on this journey with me. Every little tiny prayer like that makes a difference. And I know there's no way there's no way to measure what difference that makes. But I'm going to end with this story. Years ago, I did the craziest workshop. It ranks as the craziest workshop of my life. It really was. Like 3,000 people were supposed to show up, and I promise you, 10 people showed up, and it was a conference, not a workshop. It was a conference. 5 of whom came with me. It was shocking. It was absolutely shocking that first night. And the person who was organizing this, who actually trusted that God would put it together. Now, there's things God can't and won't do. So conference organizing is not something you can count on heaven to do. We were sitting on the stage on opening night. There are 10 people in the audience. And she looks at me and she says, in her German accent, I can't take this, and falls backwards on her chair like that. And I'm sitting. And so next thing you know, we're all sitting in a circle, and I'm trying to talk to people thinking, oh my God. Well, anyway, the next day, 60 of God's odds and ends walk in, and they end up in my workshop. And I don't know how I got through that. On the last day, all I wanted to do was get away from this. It was a 4-star flaming butane nut house. I get into this car, and this woman had to drive me back to my hotel. And she said, oh, let me tell you about myself. And I thought, no, I don't want to hear one more. But I thought, well, she's driving me, so I'm leaning against the car window thinking, all right, make it fast, make it quick, and just shut up. But she told me this story. And she said, she was such a delicate, sweet human being. And she said, I had a car accident, and I had one of those near-death experiences. And she said, I was in really bad shape. And she said, I found myself hovering over my body, and it was just shattered. And she said, you know what? I could actually hear the responses of what people were saying in the cars behind my smashed car. She said, I could hear them. I could hear them saying, oh, Christ, this is just what I need, and blah, 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 blah. And how long am I going to be waiting here because of this accident? And on and on. She said, but then, she said, I looked down, and in the 5th car, there's a beam of light shooting out of the car and then shooting into my body, my bleeding, smashed body. And I thought, what is that? And she said, the next thing I know, I'm sitting next to that woman in the car, and she had gone into prayer for me. She'd gone into prayer for me. And those prayers were actually being delivered to me. And I thought, who is this woman? And then she said, my angel. I didn't see my angel, but I felt it wrapped around me. And my angel said, you have to come in your body now. You have to get back. And she said, who is this woman? And the next thing I know, I saw the license plate of the car, and I memorized it. And she said, my angel said, it's going to take you a long time to recover from this, but just be brave. And she said, and it did. She said, it took me months and months and months. She said, but I remembered that driver's license number, a license plate. She said, I looked her up. I found her. And I gave her a bouquet of flowers. And I said, thank you for those prayers. Thank you. They were delivered. I need to leave you with that, because that changed my life. And I have shared that story, I don't know how many times, and perhaps some of you have heard it. It changed my life. And I think I was meant to hear that story so that in some way heaven would deliver the message to me through someone who witnessed how the intimacy with which prayers find their way to each of us through the inner net, through the way in which we're connected, the way we need to pray for each other now, the way we need to pray for each other. We need more than that pat on the back. We're going to need each other's reserve of grace. And we're going to need that kind of miraculous inner message that comes from the quietude that says, you know what, I'm scared to death here. I'm scared to death here. I need to know you're here. And you need to know, I promise you, everything you pray is heard. So I thought I would just end with a little prayer, if that's okay. All these prayers that I share with you are going to be in my book. That's not an advertisement, by the way, but I just have these prayers now to share, and I want to share them. And I think there's something about these prayers that are a bit appropriate to this time. Okay. When you set me on this path, Lord, I knew nothing about healing, and perhaps only you and I knew the truth, that I wanted nothing to do with the world of ill and vulnerable people. And why you put me in the middle of that world was a mystery to me for years. I asked you to grant me some insight, some reason why you gave me the skills to help people, but did not include the appetite to do the task. And I felt conscripted into service. And you know that. But you also knew I could not turn away from knowledge, especially knowledge of the soul. How could I have lived so long and not known about the healing power within us? You put me on a path to discover everything I could not imagine, the interior map of who we are. And I've noticed something, Lord, something subtle, but oh so powerful. The way people are suffering has deepened through the years. I believe that inner sufferings become a pathway into a person's soul. Human suffering is no longer only the result of loss or loneliness, tragedy, or physical pain, though these remain ever present. No, suffering has gone deeper, reaching into the caverns of the soul. You lead a person into the inner sanctum through prayer, and once they've made the choice, they've made the choice to finally confront truth. The suffering I'm witnessing is both emotional and mystical, personal and impersonal. I see it in the eyes of people in their inability to name the reason they feel so imprisoned in their depressions. This is the suffering of our collective transformation, a soul pain shared. It is untreatable, but not unreachable. You're weaving us together, like it or not. If we cannot consciously embrace our oneness, we will bleed ourselves together. It is astonishing how we prefer to suffer apart rather than love together. But the sufferings we have today have one thing in common. They are the result of feeling separate from the whole. Whether we're enduring depression, loss, or survival-level fear, this feeling of separation now envelops so many of us. I know aloneness is your way of beckoning us to meet you in prayer, to inevitably find you, and in the breakdown will come a breakthrough. Soon, very soon, a calm will arrive. Fortitude will drop in like manna from heaven, assuring us we will somehow endure. And inevitably, we will wonder about the source of that sudden calmness, so needed in that exact moment. And we will consider, perhaps for the first time, the mystical truth that we are so carefully watched over, even in the midst of the darkest passages of the human journey. Okay, thank you, everybody, and we'll talk soon. Bless you.